Hello, my darlings, and a very warm welcome back for the final time in 2022, I might add, to the library is open. So I hope you've brought your library cards, my darlings. Now, I'm filming this on New Year's Eve to go live on New Year's Eve itself. I suppose that doesn't really matter if you're not watching it on the day itself, but just know that that was the context. And we are filming from my bedroom because I'm having people over for New Year. La Familia. So the front room where I would normally film is full of stuff as I'm moving things around drastically to make it look like I live in a minimalist home. But as you can see, full of drag, full of books, full of me sort of nonsense. So that explains that. I am having a rather lovely cup of tea in my new teacup. It's one of those you know, the ones where you get like a kettle bit on top and a cup all in one. And this was a gift from the lovely Paul and Jason from Those Vegan Guys. Always linked in my description. So yeah, I don't half think I'm sum up with this. Look at that, it's beautiful, isn't it? Art Deco-y. And if you're interested in the tea that I'm drinking today, as my friend Laura calls them, my nonsense teas, they are not nonsense at all. They are a big part of my life. I'm actually I'm actually drinking a very apt one from the lovely Bird and Blend. Not sponsored, just like them. It's this limited edition one called, I don't know if you can see that, Candlelit, people don't do that anymore, do they? Candlelit Library, and it's a special one by Ruby Granger, who I presume is the designer. I do apologise if I got that wrong. And this is a black tea that has vanilla, musky notes of old books, and there's a sort of coconutty kind of vibe to it as well, which is lovely. I've had it with soy milk, but you can obviously have it black or with a milk of your choice, preferably plant. So that's great. Lovely end to the year with that. I'll link Bird and Blend in the description as always, because I am a big fan. So this is going to be a bit of a jumbly video, a bit of all sorts really. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to complete my Christmas book haul. You may have seen it in the short that I uploaded on, I think, the 27th of December, where I showed you what I received. I was lucky enough to receive, I should say. But I was also very lucky to receive 2 gift cards, so I spent them. Because I don't keep gift cards, I just spend them immediately, because there's usually loads of books that I want. So I'm really grateful to both my nan, who gave me a gift card, and also, again, the lovely Paul and Jason at Those Vegan Guys, who also gave me a gift card. So let's do that first, actually. I'll show you what I got. So with my nans, I picked up a copy of The Lola Quartet by Emily St. John Mandel, who I massively got into this year. Spoiler for something I'll mention later in the video. And I also picked up her other novel, The Singer's Gun, I think it's called, which hasn't arrived yet. I ordered it online. So she's written, I think it's 6 or 7 books, and I've read all of them apart from this one and the one that's due. So I'm really looking forward to completing that little saga of books. She is one of the best writers I've discovered this year, I have to say. More on that later. And I also got this, which I've been wanting for ages, Agatha Christie's Complete Secret Notebooks by John Curran, which I believe was originally published in 2 volumes, but this is kind of brings both of those together. And it's basically stuff from her plotting book, from her like secret work notebooks and stuff. And it's divided into all the decades that she was writing in. And if you know anything about me, you'll know I'm a massive Agatha Christie fan. Wouldn't go as far as to call myself a stan. I think I'm probably too old to be a stan. But you know, I'm really, really interested in her as a writer and as a person. So it'd be really, really interesting to look at her notes and how she came to, you know, compose the amazing output that she had. So that's that. So that was with my nan's gift card. And then I've literally just got back, and I'm using literally in the right way there, from spending Paul and Jason's lovely gift card that they gave me for Waterstones, and I picked up the following. Slight spoiler again for something else I'm going to mention. I picked up a copy of Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. I really like these Penguin Classic editions. They just feel really kind of like sleek, and they fall open really nicely as well, which is important for big books. I like big books, and I cannot lie. I also picked up, again, another spoiler, The Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. which I intend to get to this year. Again, more on that later. I've loved these brand new editions with photos of real people on them. I think they're gorgeous. And I got this, half price. I've started reading, well, I'm reading at the moment, about to finish Kafka on the Shore by Murakami. I really, really like him as a writer. So I picked up this because it was half price and it's a beautiful edition. And it's the Wind Up Bird Chronicle. I just thought I have to, because half price, I'm probably not going to get better than that. And then kind of on the on that kind of rough theme, I suppose, I also picked up this, totally on spec, Cocoon by Zhang Yueran. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Which is translated from the Chinese by Jeremy Tiang. And also, they had a big display at Waterstones about fiction from China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, etc. And I thought that was great. So I also picked up this, The Pachinko Parlour by Elisa, Shua, Dunsapin. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Translated by Aneesa, Abbas, Higgins. So I just thought they looked beautiful. And I really am enjoying reading fiction from China and Japan at the moment in particular. So I want to kind of keep going with that and expand on it. So that's kind of the end of that hauly bit. Now, I thought what I'd do is, because I just remembered, because I wasn't going to do any more videos this year until 2023, obviously. And then I thought, no, do you know what? I've got to wrap up the kind of mini two-parter that I uploaded in June, which was my mid-year kind of stats and favourites. So that's what I'm going to do. And now we're at the end of the year. I've got my trusty book to keep tabs on everything I read. I just make a note of everything, what format it was in, and, you know, what genre and stuff, so I can tot up at the end. So I've discovered, and I don't know how to feel about this, that over the course of 2022, I have read 256 books overall, which is pretty impressive, but I'm not like showing off by that. It's not about numbers. It's like, did I have a good time reading them? Was it pleasurable? That's what matters to me anyway. So I'm not saying that to show off, is my point. And of those 256, I read 151 since I did the check-in in June, where I must have read 104, I guess. Yeah, that's basic maths, isn't it? Now, of those that I read since June, so the last 6 months of the year, 125 were fiction, and 26 were non-fiction. I clearly have a skew towards fiction. Format-wise, I read 96 of them in print, so like actual copies of the books. 17 of them on Kindle or ebook format. And 38 of them as audiobooks, which is interesting because that's a massive like up from the previous year, which I credit a lot to my Libraries Open Book Club folks who've really got me into the whole audio thing. So thank you for that, people. Now, just to be nerdy about it, genre-wise, I've done my best here to break it down. 57 of all those books were mysteries or thrillers. They're broad categories, these. 40 of them were general contemporary fiction, or classical fiction, actually. So, yeah, no distinction there. 8 of them were sci-fi and fantasy. 10 of them were horror. I reckon a lot of that was probably my Halloween vlogs. 12 were autobiography or biographies. 14 were what I would class as general fiction. And then 5, one of those two, I've wrote 2 numbers and I can't remember, were miscellaneous. So poetry, plays, things like that. Things that I read that were still fiction, but are not like falling into that traditional kind of thing. So that's a lot, isn't it? That's all my nerdy statistics for those of you who like to know things about that. So moving forward, I'm not going to set myself a goal of numbers for next year because I don't think that's what it's about. I don't want to try and beat myself or, you know, try and rush through things just for the sake of being that. Whatever I read is what I will read, and that's fine. But I do have quite a few plans for the channel over the next couple of months. I've got some things coming up just to give you a little sneaky peek, some of which you've already been sneak peeked on. So I did a poll on my Instagram stories and also on my YouTube community tab, which you can check there. Sometimes I post there little messages and pictures and stuff, to ask which, because a couple of years ago I did a completing the Bronte sisters output reading, which I really, really enjoyed, and it really like gave me a sense of fulfillment and enjoyment. So I thought I'd try and do that again with people who are either already classic authors, like the Brontes, or who I think will be classic authors. And because you've seen the spoiler now, I can reveal, although a full vlog will be coming up about this, that the two most highly voted were Charles Dickens and Toni Morrison, which is cool. Yeah, the highest voted on YouTube was Charles Dickens, and the highest voted on Instagram was Toni Morrison. So I thought, you know what, I'll do both. So I'm going to set up a schedule for the year, and I'll do monthly check-ins on reading a Morrison and a Dickens, roughly in publication order, skipping out the ones that I've already read. So hopefully I should be able to get through their back catalogues by the end of the year. What else am I doing? Oh yeah, I did another poll thing, both on Instagram and on the YouTubes, about the biggest book talk books of 2022. You know, I'm not on TikTok myself, but I know that BookTok is becoming increasingly significant in leading the book market, and you'll probably see them in shops and stuff like BookTok's Finest, so on and so forth. So I put all of the so-called biggest books of TikTok for 2022 into a poll, and you all collectively voted for 4 of them. So I'm going to do an individual vlog on that, where I'm not going to tell you what they are yet, but look out for that one. What else am I doing? I'm also doing, oh yes, I'm going to do the Read Christie thing this year, which is the thing they do every year through the Agatha Christie like official foundation or organisation, where they have a book club pick every month of an Agatha Christie title that's given in response to a prompt. So they're being very secretive about it at the moment, but I'm pretty sure I know what the first one is. You can find out more details on that on the Agatha Christie website, which is very, very cool. I will link that in the description as well. So that's that. So hopefully that will be like a vlog a month on that as well. I'm setting myself up here, I'm telling you. Am I doing anything else book ready thingy wise? Can't remember now. That's a bit dodgy, isn't it? Oh yeah, I tell you one thing, this is an absolute one-off. I'm going to New York in January with work, so I'm gonna do, as I did last year, I did a big vlog when I went to Chicago. Oh no, that was this year. This was February this year. You can find that on my videos list if you want to look. So I'll do on that, and maybe I'll try and read some like New York fiction or take you around some of the bookshops and stuff. I really want to go to the drama bookshop in New York, and also maybe have a look over at St. Mark's Place or something like that, and see if there's some like thrifty bookshops. I'll have a look. I'll have a big look. Probably go to Barnes and Noble again, which is like my church in America apparently. So there we go. So those are the plans for the channel, and obviously there's going to be the usual kind of nonsense, wrap-ups, reviews, so on and so forth. But just before I sort of sign off for 2022, what I would like to reveal is my kind of top 5. I think I did top 5 in the last vlog, which I will link in the description, by the way, of like what I'd read in that period that were my kind of top 5. I don't do least favourites because I don't find it productive, but for me, but I think it was 5. I'm sure I did 5 in June. Well, we're doing 5 now anyway, so I'm going to tell you, exclusively reveal what they are. I might not have hard copies of all of these, so I'll just have to tell you about them, and you can go and Google them if you're interested. And without further ado, my first top 5 read of July to December 2022 was Whatever Happened to Queer Happiness by Kevin Brazil, which is kind of critical theory non-fiction that sort of examines, almost tangentially, but like with lots of references to pop culture and stuff like that, the way that queerness is always framed in terms of shame, and how through different artistic mediums we can kind of reclaim a sense of queer joy and happiness as the opposite number to shame. It's a series of essays. It was very, very, very interesting and inspiring to me. So I loved that. That was great. What else? On the non-fiction theme, I also read, which interestingly enough was one of TikTok's top books of 2022. I also read How to Read Now by Elaine Castillo. And that is the correct pronunciation, by the way. She makes that clear in the book, as opposed to Castillo. which was about, not just about reading books, but how we literally read now, the world that we're in through what lenses. And it's a kind of critique against patriarchy and whiteness and cisness and straightness as the kind of normative like baseline, with everybody else seen as kind of deviating away from that. And I just found it really, really fascinating. She talked a lot about Toni Morrison and her kind of thoughts on reading, both literally reading and reading situations and stuff. And I love that kind of conversation that happens there between novels and stuff. Really, really highly recommended. She pulls absolutely no punches whatsoever, this woman. Very, very compelling. A third one was a total anomaly that was absolutely gorgeous, and I don't have the copy to hand, unfortunately. It's called Five Minds by Guy Morpuss, who also has another one out called Black Lake Manor. This was amazing kind of crime thriller set in a dystopian-ish sort of future where there are no resources, so you have to make a choice when you get to 17 about how you want to live your life. You can be downloaded into an android, or you can become what's called, their words not mine, a schizo, which is where 5 people share one body for 4 hours at a time a day. Now, unfortunately, murder and mayhem ensue because they go to this death park, this one body that houses 5 people, where you can win more time. But somebody has been killed, and suspicion is falling on one of them that share this headspace. It's an absolute trip. It's brilliant. Really kind of golden age crime, but in a really modern or possibly postmodern way that I just adored. I thought it was fantastic. So really do check that one out if you're into that kind of thing or you like the sound of it. What else? Oh, yes. This one, I slightly spoiled this earlier. Station 11. The novel I discovered Emily St. John Mandel with, which is just fantastic. It's bleak and it's also dystopian, but it's also ultimately hopeful. So this is set in a future where electricity and kind of civilization has collapsed and people have kind of gone primitive, and there's it follows an acting troupe traveling across North America. Sorry, I know there's parts of it in Canada as well. And performing Shakespeare plays, and it's a time jumper. It goes back in time before the fall and after the fall, and for a novel that kind of sees what might be the end of humanity, it's very strangely hopeful. There is also a mini-series of this as well, which I haven't watched yet, but I probably will get to. This is what inspired me to pick up the rest of her work, which was Sea of Tranquility and The Glass Hotel, I think, and Last Night in Montreal are the ones I haven't mentioned. Also very good. Really an author to watch, I think. Very, well, I say an author to watch, she's already established. She's got loads of books, but yeah. And the final one is a very recent one. I'm literally almost about to finish reading it. Is this one, Kafka on the Shore by Murakami. Heard of Murakami loads, and he was one of the authors I put in the poll to see if I should read his whole back catalogue. Didn't win, but that's fine. And this is about a young boy called Kafka who runs away from home, from a prophecy that his dad had, that he's going to basically follow in the footsteps of Oedipus. And then he encounters a librarian in a strange town, a possible ghost of her former self. Meanwhile, there's a man who can talk to cats after an accident. There's something that happened dodgy between America and Japan during the war that's going on in the background. There's a boy called Crowboy who's talking to him, but he may or may not be there. It's just beautiful. I can't really explain it. It's one of those ones you really need to experience. But as a first outing for Murakami, absolutely highly recommend. Really, really enjoying this. It's dense, don't get me wrong, but not unreadably dense. It's just a lot, if that makes sense. So there we go. Those were my top 5 of the end of 2022. And that kind of brings us to the end of this catch-up Jumbly Sale vlog. Thank you so much for all the support that you've given me over this past year, and I hope you've had fun with my videos. I have a lot of fun making them, and I hope it's the kind of content that you enjoy, even though it's a bit kind of lo-fi and we just like having a chat and so on and so forth. But that's what feels right for me. So anyway, so put your library card somewhere safe, my darlings. Have yourself an amazing New Year's Eve, whatever you're doing, and bring on 2023, eh? The library's closed for now. Grab yourselves a cup of tea. And, yeah, here's to the new year, as they say. Talk to you soon, book sniffers. Much love. Mwah.